Good afternoon. Welcome to Ream Library. I'm Tom Landy. I'm the director of the McFarland Center for Religion, Ethics, and Culture here at the college. The McFarland Center sponsors and supports a range of programming, including lectures, conferences, class visits, that encourage dialogue on issues of meaning, morality, and mutual obligation. The talk today is part of the Deichmann Family Lecture Series on religion and modernity, and I'm grateful to John Deichmann of the class of 1970 and his family for their gift to support the series. You can learn more about the McFarland Center's programs and watch past lectures online and tell your friends to catch up in a few days to this lecture, which will be online at holycross.edu/McFarland Center. I'm grateful to join Religious Studies Professor Matthew Schmaltz, my colleague and friend, today to welcome Kalpana Jain. Kalpana is a journalist, senior editor for Ethics and Religion for The Conversation. She's going to speak on Hindu nationalism and the politics in the name of Lord Rama in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's India. With the festival of Diwali last week, Kalpana noted how Modi has elevated a single storyline of Lord Rama as divine hero, vanquishing evil, as part of political efforts to unite Hindus and to gain and hold power. Kalpana is senior religion and ethics editor at The Conversation US, which is a nonprofit independent news platform that invites commentary and analysis from scholars for the general public. I, and especially much more often Professor Matt Schmaltz, have had the pleasure of working with Kalpana on articles for The Conversation. Kalpana is an award-winning journalist and author who has written extensively on Hindu nationalism, poverty, gender issues, and healthcare in India. Her reporting at the Times of India played a significant role in elevating public health as an important topic of news coverage and led to many policy changes. She was the first journalist in India to give a face to the HIV/AIDS epidemic through her book, Positive Lives, published by Penguin in 2002. She was selected as a Nieman Fellow at Harvard in 2008 and a Mason Fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School in 2010. As a Pulitzer Center for Crisis Reporting grantee, Kalpana explored the intersection of religion, spirituality, and political ideology in India through the lives of women and millennials in a project called Hindu Nationalism, Its Toll, and India's Interfaith Resilience. The project earned her third place in the American Academy of Religion's news writing contest that year. Her articles have appeared in the Washington Post just a few days ago, and beyond that, Vox, Stat News, PRI's The World, Sojourners, among others. She studied gender and religion and holds a master's in theological studies from Harvard Divinity School. So please join me in welcoming Kalpana Jain.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for that very generous introduction. And it's just so good to meet both Matt and Thomas here, who are such esteemed scholars who write for us, and very grateful to be here and for all your presence here. This picture that you see here, I'll start off with that. This is actually Diwali celebration this November 4th in Ayodhya, which is a city in northern India, and it is what Hindu nationalists believe, the original birthplace of Lord Rama. And I bring this up because never before has there been this kind of a celebration in Ayodhya. More than 10,000 diyas, which are earthen lamps, they were lit. There were laser shows. There was, the city is on the banks of a river called Saryu. So you see, how the whole city is being lit. And I'll just take you through about what is political about it. I mean, Diwali, we all celebrate, we all light diyas. But this city has been at the center stage of Hindu nationalistic politics for many decades. It's a small, sleepy town in India without many amenities that I visited in 2019 and found small business owners, and I'll show you some of the pictures. These are small business owners, both Hindus and Muslims. And what's interesting actually about this picture is that these are Muslim business owners, and if you see here, these are wooden sandals that people wear to the temples. It is a temple city. And these are Muslims who are making those sandals for Hindus to go into temples. And that's what you see a lot in this city. In the next picture, you see, they allowed us to take these photographs from outside, so you really can't see the faces of these women here. But what we wanted to capture was the flowers. These are people who make the garlands. And again, Muslim women who are making that for Hindus who go to the temples. And that's how the city lives together. That's how people come together. These are very, very densely populated neighborhoods where Hindus and Muslims live pretty much peacefully together. And every time they would say that anytime trouble happens, it's these outsiders who come in. So they don't associate that with people within their community. But this city is rapidly changing. As a government under Prime Minister Modi is transforming it into a major pilgrimage center. So roads are being built. When I went there were not even a hotel where one could stay. But now roads, airport, a railway station, everything's being built, and the city is getting a major makeover with the Modi government planning to turn it into a big religious tourism, put it on the religious tourism map. At the heart of this project is a temple dedicated to Lord Rama that is currently being constructed. This is a model of that temple. And the temple is being built on a site that was long disputed. In 1992, Hindu nationalists pulled down a 16th century mosque, the Babri Masjid. This was the Babri Masjid. They claimed that the site was the original birthplace of Lord Rama, and that the Mughal ruler Babur, the first in a Muslim dynasty that ruled India from 1526 to 1857, had destroyed the temple to build the mosque. So you see here that Hindu nationalists are bringing it down. There was a lot of communal tension, riots, and people who died after this. In November 2019, the Supreme Court of India allowed the government to construct a temple at the site. But these images that I took even before the judgment show that the preparations were in full swing for the construction. Even before the Supreme Court had given the judgment, you see that this is being constructed now, and this is what I saw when I went there before the judgment. But this was, Modi's government was already in power. So the symbolism of Lord Rama to unify Hindus has long been in the making. And I would argue it could explain in part the gradual rise to power of the pro-Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party, or the BJP, over the last 20 years. The term Hindu encompasses a large category with a wide set of beliefs which are not united by a common institution, unlike, one could say, the Abrahamic faiths. There is no single Hindu culture. As David Ludden, a historian of South Asia, says, Hindu identity is multiple by definition, and India consists of many other religious identities as well, including Muslims, Zoroastrians, Sikhs, Christians, and Jews, and many others. And this was the term Hindu is a Persian word, and it likely referred to people near the Indus River. You'll see here, right here. So this was people who lived across the Indus, known as Sindhu, came to be known as Hindus. So part of the nationalist project has been to bring this group together. It was helped by a nationwide televising of the story of Ramayana, a 2,500-year-old epic, in 1987. The story became so popular that people started to worship the actors themselves. There were about 80 to 100 million people who are estimated to have watched the show. I mean, people would, I remember watching it. It was just a fascinating story. So people would come in front of their television, and there were people who would bring all their, the Hindu puja and do like an aarti of their television. So it was that popular. Soon after the story was streamed into homes, the then president of the party, L.K. Advani, started a campaign about taking back the temple in Ayodhya. Advani portrayed himself as the new Rama, and the Toyota van he used for traveling across the country like a rath or chariot. So that's the Toyota van that he's using. That was still fresh in public memory from the television portrayal as Rama's chariot. I recall covering part of this campaign where party members would break a coconut in front of the Toyota van, as is done in Hindu religious rituals. In other words, the whole political campaign was turned into a large Hindu ritual. And a common Hindu identity was being created. That's Rama on TV, and that's the BJP leader as Rama. So if you see the resemblance. For the proponents of Hindu nationalism, Rama represents the ideal man and his consort Sita, the ideal virtuous woman whose character should be emulated. And the BJP demanded that the temple be constructed in Ayodhya, which they claimed was the birth site of Lord Rama. And these figures are interesting because what you see here, that's in 1984, BJP got 2 seats in parliament. In 1989, after the televising of the Ramayana serial, their share rose to 11% with 85 seats. And in the 1996 elections, following the Rath Yatra, it jumped to 161. And you see the graph here. This is like the Indian National Congress, which has been the leading major national party, and they are in majority, and BJP is here. And gradually you see their rise, and now they're here. So I want to step back into a little history. For those who really don't understand some of that history or forget, it's good to just, come back to it. Hindu nationalism emerged as a political ideology in India under the British colonial rule in the early 20th century. The Hindu nationalist organization, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or RSS, was founded in 1925 to create a Hindu state. Under this ideology, Hindus alone were the real owners of the land, and Muslims were outsiders or invaders. So what is today the Indian subcontinent, a region comprising Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, has been through many invasions. Muslim conquest in the Indian subcontinent took place from the 12th to the 16th century. With the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate by Qutbuddin Aibak, the founder of the Mamluk dynasty, Islam was spread across most parts of the Indian subcontinent. After this came the Mughal dynasty, the Muslim dynasty of Turkic-Mongol origin that ruled most of northern India from the early 16th to the mid-18th century. Soon after came the British colonial rule that lasted until the early 20th century, or 1947 to be precise. So indeed, the religious complexity of India has never been an easy one. Under Muslim rulers, religious taxes were imposed on Hindus. And there were times when temples were destroyed, something that is highlighted in modern day history books. And I just want to go back and also highlight that, what is written on this van, it says Somnath to Ayodhya. Now, bringing Somnath into, on his Toyota van is kind of interesting because Somnath is the place associated with a major invasion and the destruction of once beautiful temple by an invader called Mahmud of Ghaznavi. So for the BJP to bring that up is reviving some of those memories of people or what they've read in history books. What is often missed in this narrative is that several Muslim rulers provided land for temples, and senior members of their courts were often Hindus. So communities, for the most part, found a way to live together despite religious differences. Then came the Partition of India. When Pakistan was created, it was a very messy and bloody process as the departing British Empire hurriedly created a border. The partition saw the slaughter of more than 1 million people trying to flee from either side of a newly created border in what can only be called a religious violence. Some 15 million were displaced in the process. Countless lives were forever scarred. And this grim period lives in the memories of both these nations. And it comes up often from time to time, especially when communal tensions flare up. So it is a fragile relationship, but Hindus and Muslims do live peacefully together for the most part. If you go to India, you will see mosques and temples side by side like this. So this is a temple, and right behind this is a mosque. You will wake up to the sound of the azan or the Muslim prayer in a predominantly Hindu neighborhood, or to temple bells in a Muslim neighborhood. I'll give a brief snapshot from my visit to the holy Hindu city of Varanasi in northern India. I visited Varanasi in 2018 and then in 2019. And I mention Varanasi as it is the parliamentary constituency of Narendra Modi. While it is known as a holy Hindu city, close to 30% of Varanasi's residents are Muslims. There are also hundreds of Muslim shrines and mosques. The city is an important pilgrimage center for Jains, Buddhists, and Sikhs. Barely 6 miles from Varanasi is Sarnath, the place where Buddha is supposed to have attained enlightenment. I'll give an example of how these communities have found ways to build a community over the century and how some of those customs continue to this day. Shiite Muslims observe the first day of Muharram to commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, and his family. The procession involves carrying the tazia, a paper and bamboo replica of the tomb of Hussein, through the lanes of the city. Horses decorated for battle are also taken out in the procession in the lanes of the city. And remember, these are very crowded and dense lanes where you can barely, a car can pass through. So this is like Hindu customs and Muslim customs all going on in the same street. It's kind of complicated. Interestingly, in Varanasi, the custodian of the horse is a Hindu family. The procession cannot move without their participation. So that's how the communities come together, stay together, live together. In much of India, there is a tradition of wearing that tazia, but in Varanasi, until recently, it was immersed in the sacred Ganges, much as is the Hindu custom of doing rituals in the sacred waters of the Ganges. So that's how the communities come together. In the temples of Varanasi, this is a Sufi shrine, and you will often see these in India where Hindus and Muslims will come together and offer their prayers. Okay, this is Varanasi. This slide was supposed to have come earlier, but you can see it's a very dense city, and there's a lot of Hindu ritual going on here, but it has communities, as I said, 30% Muslims here, and a lot of Muslim shrines, and a very diverse population. These are the Shehnai players, and as I was talking about the Shehnai players, in the temples of Varanasi, many of the Muslim disciples of Bismillah Khan, a Muslim maestro of the Shehnai, a musical instrument that originally came to India from the Middle East, still continue the practices and traditions started by their guru. As Khan liked to say, he was a worshipper of both Allah and the Hindu goddess of learning, Saraswati. Today, no Hindu wedding is performed without the auspicious notes of the Shehnai, a rich reminder of the shared Indo-Mughal heritage. When I was in Varanasi, I listened to a beautiful rendition of the Bible from a Brahmin, Hari Prasad Dwivedi, in the form of couplets that he sang in the local language Bhojpuri. Present at the small gathering were devout Hindus, both young and old. And I narrate these vignettes from India as, it's one of the many that you could find in India. And I narrate this as a way to explain what lived religion has looked like, at least for the most part. I would also like to add that in a country of 200 million Muslims, India is one of those countries that's had the least Islamic radicalization. Sorry, is that my phone going on an alarm of some kinds? So creating, therefore, common symbols around which Hindu unity could be built has long been a nationalist goal. In the 19th century, a symbolic language of the sacred cow was used in the early part of the nationalist movement to galvanize large numbers of Hindus across class, caste, and regional divides in British India. And the movement to protect the cow originated through Arya Samaj, a Hindu reform movement. It was founded by Dayanand Saraswati, a Sanskrit scholar who believed that to save Hinduism from Islamic and Christian influence, it needed to return to the values promoted in ancient Indian texts. So in 1881, he started to call for the protection of the cow, publishing a paper that opposed the slaughter of the cow as an anti-Hindu act. That was the first time that, cow is not sacred for everyone, and cow has not always been sacred. And today also it's sort of more complicated than, everyone wanting for the protection of the cow. So back then, newspapers and magazines helped circulate the message, as did the saints who took it from region to region. Individuals were asked to contribute even as little as a handful of rice so that cow shelters could be set up. In that way, the common individual came to be part of the movement. In 1882, the movement received further impetus when Dayanand Saraswati founded a committee for the protection of the cow. Even the Orthodox Hindus, whose practices he had opposed, joined in. And that same language we saw repeated of this Hindu symbolism under Modi. And many of you might recall how Muslims have been targeted and lynched in recent years just on suspicions of storing or eating beef. And today it's Rama. So it's back to the politics of Rama. Now BJP is using the image of Rama to unify a Hindu base. So in Ayodhya, this is Ayodhya as it existed when I went there, and I'm sorry about this picture, this is the best I could find, but this is like, it's still, it's sort of still an idea, so I guess it looks like that. It's supposed to be an 825-foot imposing Rama statue. That is coming up, it's under construction. And, one can imagine that what the city would look like when you have an 825-foot imposing Rama statue and what they're trying to do there, to create there, in a country with such wide diversity of beliefs. State governments are giving sponsorship to pilgrims who may want to visit the city. The diversity of beliefs is so vast in Hinduism that even the legends around Rama differ in their telling. I'm a Jain, and the story in Jainism is very different, where the typical story is that Rama fights a demon king, Ravana, and gets his consort, Sita, back from him. And it's sort of said to be a fight between good and evil, and that's sort of the larger, one of the larger narratives. But within the Jain tradition, Ravana is not evil, and he just has a momentary lapse of judgment. He's actually portrayed as a very learned man who doesn't take counsel when it comes to Sita. So it's shown to be a more complicated character. So what I'm trying to say is there are many, many, many stories around Rama, not just one story. But this is the story that is now being used to build a common Hindu canon. This project has taken decades to come to this stage. It was in 1949, 2 years after India's independence, that a statue of Rama suddenly appeared overnight in the Babri Masjid, the mosque that I referred to earlier, that was demolished by Hindu nationalists in 1992. Communal rioting broke out even then, but were eventually suppressed. In an independent India, secularism was enshrined in the constitution. But over the years, RSS, which I talked about earlier, this is the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, the nationalist organization that Modi used to be a part of before becoming the Prime Minister. So RSS has built a grassroots base with branches known as shakhas all over India. To those who voluntarily joined the shakhas, it was initially about being immersed in a Hindu culture, learning Sanskrit shlokas and prayers, but also alongside martial arts training. Until the mid-1970s, the number of these shakhas was relatively low. There were 8,500 shakhas in 1975, each with about 50 to 100 participants. But if you see now, in 2019, after the return of the BJP to power, they've increased like 10 times to over, close to 85,000. And the thing is that they work at a very grassroots level, and they can really influence public opinion. And along with these shakhas, there are several other affiliated organizations that comprise the Sangh Parivar, or the Sangh family as they are called. Prominent among them is a student-led organization, the ABVP, or the Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, which is very active on college campuses and has caused a lot of trouble on college campuses. Then there's the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, or the VHP, that was formed in 1964, that was at the forefront of the destruction of the mosque in 1992. These organizations are important for carrying out the nationalistic agenda of the BJP. I met another affiliated organization in 2019. These are women who are members of the Durga Vahini, loosely translated as the Army of Durga, the Hindu goddess. I came to understand after meeting them how the Hindu nationalists were creating a following among young girls and women and indoctrinating them in hatred and the pursuit of their agenda. I mean, looking at them, they could be like any of my family, everyday women, but these women are the eyes and ears of the organization. They know what's happening in society and can influence public opinion at the local level. They are involved in a lot of protests. They provided support when the Babri Masjid was demolished. As they themselves told me at that time when I interviewed them, they were the ones handing out food, water, just providing the background support that the Hindu nationalists who were at the forefront needed at that time, or providing them shelter in their homes. They and other youth organizations are often deployed to counter what the Hindu nationalists also call love jihad. So that's a new thing that's emerging in India. Love jihad is the Hindu nationalist belief that Muslims are seeking to deceive Hindu women through marriage and converting them to Islam. Over the course of the past year or so, several BJP politicians have suggested that this is part of an Islamic conspiracy to increase India's Muslim population. And what's going on now is that states are coming up with their laws. So Uttar Pradesh, where about a fifth of the population is Muslim, passed the first love jihad law in the country. So what this means is that the government is now policing who you can marry, who you cannot marry. Known as the Prohibition of Unlawful Religious Conversion Ordinance, it requires couples from different religious communities to provide 2 months' notice to the local government official before getting married. This officer would then have discretion to decide whether the conversion was done through compulsion, and the offending person could then be denied bail and sentenced to 10 years in prison. You can imagine. So if there is a Hindu girl wanting to marry a Muslim boy, they have to go to the government, they have to seek permission, and the boy could be jailed just for trying to marry a Hindu girl. These women, along with men from related organizations, often intervene before these marriages can happen and use the state apparatus to stop marriages between Hindu girls and Muslim men. And they do a lot else. They're also being trained in the use of arms, guns. I mean, this is like an army of women that's being created. While such seeds of division are being sown, the Rama temple construction is in full swing. I can mention this also before we get to the Rama temple. This is an interesting ceremony I witnessed while I was there. So BJP is not just, sort of catering to the Hindu votes. It's also bringing in, I would like to say, more vulnerable women into its fold. So these are Muslim women doing a Hindu puja. And I talked to these Muslim women, what they were getting out of this. BJP uses this, the Hindu nationalists use this as a showcase to show how Muslims are supporting us. The Muslim women are also, they feel harassed within their own communities, and then the BJP can find a way to bring these women, put on this show, they bring television crews. They'll sort of create a whole spectacle out of this to show how Muslim women are coming to them. Whereas the fact is that these women are looking for a little more freedom, and then they come to the BJP, they help them, with opportunities, education, but then this is what's also happening. So I see women as becoming victims in this whole story in their own way, to just further the BJP agenda or the Hindu nationalist agenda. While such seeds of division are being sown, the Rama temple construction is in full swing. It is expected to be completed before the next parliamentary elections of 2024. So for those who thought after, COVID in India, when there was a lot of negative press and negative public opinion, that Modi might not win the next elections, but with the Rama temple coming up by 2024, as is the plan, things might change. In the meantime, what we see happening is that other politicians too are jumping onto this bandwagon of the Rama symbolism. What you see here is the chief minister, the leader of Delhi, and he is doing, this whole spectacle of Rama Puja. So other politicians are also wanting to quote Hindu voters through these symbols. Modi has projected himself as the lookalike of the television version of Rama. We can go back a few slides again to see what that looked like. So this was Advani who did that, and this is the Rama of the television version, and now it is Modi. And he's establishing himself as the proverbial as the proverbial head of the Ram Rajya, a mythical rule under which everyone is prosperous and safe. Except under this rule, the space for minority faiths is shrinking, as well as for all those who do not agree with the BJP's brand of politics, including the media. And not just Indian politics, but I fear Hindu religion itself is changing. Thank you.
What would you say about, could you just lay out who are the major opponents of the BJP politically and how they're situated in Indian society?
Well, at this point of time, there isn't a strong political party, because the major opponent, one would think at one point of time, was the other big political party, which is the Congress. The Congress has been really weakened over the years, so the Congress isn't that strong. There are some media organizations that are playing more activist roles at this point of time, putting up a fight, but there isn't really much. And there is so much happening also through social media. The bots, they are controlling, a lot of the narrative, or whatever you want to call it at this point of time. And that's the scary part, that there isn't, or whatever rises up, whatever, if there are strong voices, they aren't allowed to come up. There's been a lot of coming down on speech, on free media, on even on activists and NGOs. So it's been a very gradual restrictions of freedoms in India. So I wish I had a more hopeful answer to that, but I don't. For this, I was just specifically focusing on Ayodhya and how they're using the symbolism of Ram. But that's absolutely right. It's how he's positioned himself. And we have to remember that after, and you're the political scientist here, I'm the journalist. After independence, India's had this, this sort of a very elitist rule. The press has been elitist, the society's sort of been that way. And there has been a dissatisfaction towards that. And Modi's sort of given voice to that. And that is, of course, part of the reason that people kind of associated Modi as being the chaiwala and therefore the common man. And in the past, we've also seen this, and he projects that, how he's pushing back against the West also, how he's standing up to the West and Indian culture and thousands of years. So, getting people to take pride in who they are, especially coming out of colonialism. So I think he touched on a sentiment there. He's very astute as a politician. No, I mean, that's a great point. The chaiwala thing is, he's worked it very well. Yeah. And when you go to India, you actually find, even Muslims supporting him, even Muslim women supporting him. He's done some of the things. For example, the triple talaq. So for those of you who don't know, in India, Muslim women had been fighting for a long time against, that Muslim men could just say talaq to them 3 times, that I divorce you. And these days they were saying that even on Facebook and on WhatsApp. And the women could be divorced. And the ruling party before Modi, Congress, had refused to take action on it because it was so political for them. Modi comes and he changes that. So then he finds support also from Muslim women who'd, long been, wanting to get that changed. Those voices are not being heard. I mean, how do you hear those? So either it's like it comes out in the media, or there are active civil society organizations. Even if that is being contested, there's no space to voice it. A lot of those stories, let's say, some of the Rama stories, a different way of telling, comes from the lower caste. That's not being heard. It comes from women, especially further down south. That's not being heard. So who's going to tell it and where is the question. So this becomes like the dominant narrative. And, a lot of people that I have talked to or can find, they're very excited about it. It's like, yes, we have a pilgrimage center. Why shouldn't we have a pilgrimage center? Rama is a god. Now, how can you find fault with that? But it's more nuanced than that. It's like you're changing religion. You're actually, sort of creating a new religion out here. But it's being done in a way that it's hard to contest it. He's quite popular. It's sort of, he can play to every sort of different kind of audience and different kind of people. The only time he wasn't popular was during the time of COVID. And that was one time that, you saw sort of visibly people being very angry with him. With the media that actually wrote about it, he was brutal in cracking down on that media. So he doesn't tolerate any voices rising against that. So if there is any dissent, that gets crushed. What you see in the face of it is that people like it. He's sort of giving a new language. It's kind of hard to explain, and we'll see what happens in the elections. My sense is, with the temple coming up, with what he's done during Diwali and how that's been received, it will make things go in his favor, because by then COVID is forgotten. COVID is already forgotten. The mismanagement is forgotten, and he just creates a new storyline, and that'll be the new storyline that he's already building and he's creating, and it would have been created by 2024. It remains in the constitution that India is a secular nation, and they will come out and oppose it, and they will say that, this is all sort of happened as a form of British colonialism. Nehru, who was the first Prime Minister, and, at the time, like the founding fathers here, they were the ones who put the constitution together. The BJP today it sort of runs a whole campaign against the Nehru family. So they've come up with their own way of functioning. There's no way of stopping it. You know, the media was a big way, at least for me as a journalist, media was a big way where you put out the dissent, where you say the stories, where you bring all this out. That is not happening anymore. It's Modi's story that's coming out. It's a very controlled media at this time, unfortunately. I mean, you saw in this case, the Supreme Court actually gave a verdict which favored Modi, and they were expecting that. So in the past, we've seen the Supreme Court doing a lot of pushback. Not at this time. Institutions, what Modi did after he came, editors were changed, newspaper ownerships literally changed, institutions were, you know, at least the key institutions, they came to have people who were sort of pro-Hindu nationalists. So that's something that we've seen which hasn't happened in the past, is how institutions literally have changed under Modi. Now that's going to be very hard to reverse. So yeah, no, there isn't much pushback. And you might have read that, you know, people have been killed, scholars have been killed. One of my friends who was, you know, started with me in Times of India, and she was running a newspaper and she was doing a lot of pushback. She was shot dead. So people are being killed. There, as I said, you know, the space for free speech is really, really shrinking. The press, there was a farmers' protest, and, you know, the press was just simply doing its job reporting. Journalists were jailed. For very small things, people are picked up and jailed. What I talked about, love jihad, people are actually being jailed. You know, they're being arrested. There's a lot of fear. India is a sovereign nation. And as it's not that it's surrounded by very friendly countries. It's surrounded by Pakistan, where historically we've never, you know, it's a result of a partition. On the other side is Bangladesh. There's Nepal, there's China. With China, there's always been, you know, a troubled relationship. So those are the neighbors. They are not very friendly neighbors. But other than that, those are domestic policies. No one's going to come in and say anything. Look at the US. I mean, there was one time that Modi was like a pariah. He wasn't allowed to enter. And now people have to do business, governments have to run, so, you know, the US welcomes him. What about the US? That's kind of the biggest example of how nations then do not oppose the ruler of a sovereign nation or say anything, even when democracy is being sort of, you know, destroyed, one could say. And there is a lot of fear. Recently, you might have seen that academics came together from, I think, about like 53 universities to do a conference on dismantling Hindutva. And they received death threats. It was hard for the academics, though they still did the conference, but they did talk about it. It's becoming very hard for academics to do their work. I hear from a lot of academics how they are not able to go to India and do their work, or if they do, then you know, there is someone from the government who kind of spies on them or keeps a track of what they're doing, or they're just not allowed entry. Yeah, I don't know if I know enough about the story, but I do know that, well, Modi, at least he claims, he doesn't come from a very wealthy family. He was, you know, part of the RSS that I talked about here. And he talks about his story as someone who was a tea seller, chaiwala. I mean, in India, you have these, you know, like poor people can set up a little kiosk and they can just sell chai or tea and earn a rupee or two, which is like less than few cents. And that's what he tries to portray himself as, coming from, you know, really rising up from that level. He calls himself what? Dharti ka lal, that I'm, you know, from this Mother Earth. I'm a, you know, sort of son of this earth, and I have accomplished all this through just hard work. What am I missing?
No, that's plenty. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's that image, that rustic image, that I'm not one of the elite. And it is the elites that have ruled India for the last, about 70 years, close to 70 years. And people were unhappy with it, and I think Modi has tapped into it. So India's had how many? About 74 years of independence after the British. And it's still trying to find its identity and its language and, where it stands in the world. And Modi's come at that point of time where he's sort of showing people, I can lead you and, I can help you take pride in your culture. So in that sense, when he builds this whole, someone asked me about the religion part of it, why isn't there opposition? When he's building this, the religion, it's also part of how he's bringing out this ancient culture, putting India on the world map, because that's what they're talking about. They'll put also India on the world religion tourism map. So, people get taken in by this populist talk, and there's a lot of populism that's going on.
Maybe if I can ask a last question. Is this a religious phenomenon, or is this a sort of secular kind of political playbook that's going on? The same story that one can tell about the uses of religious nationalism for a populist leader are manifested in the United States, and it's been, I'm not the first person to say that by a long shot, but so how do you think these both sort of seem to rise up at the same time? Is it a playbook that people are learning from? Is it just something about rejection of secularism or rejection of elitism that's floating around and it works, and we see it elsewhere in the world too?
Certainly.
And,
Certainly. A lot of people see how did this, then we'll go back into Indian politics and the politics that Congress played for a very long time, which was the ruling party. And they did play what was called a minority politics, so Muslim appeasement politics. When Advani, the BJP leader who I showed, started his Rath Yatra, what was the slogan? The slogan was, Garv se kaho hum Hindu hain. What that meant was, say with pride that you are a Hindu, because Hindus at least started to feel that in their own country they have to be secular, and they cannot practice their faith with the same freedom as Muslims are allowed. I don't know if this is true, but this was the feeling. And when Advani came up with that campaign and with that slogan, that really clicked with people. That became sort of just such a way with the masses. Garv se kaho hum Hindu hain. So there is something here about how they are exploiting the religion, this feeling against secularism, and going back to colonialism too, because then secularism is seen as being aligned with the colonialism, and they want to move India away from that. So there's a lot of forces that are at work here, and religion becomes a convenient tool, and Rama becomes a convenient way. As I said, it's a politics of symbolism. So you can use the cow, or you can use the Ram, or you can use Rama, but it's something around how do you unite the Hindus? Otherwise, Hindus don't get united. In my experience too, I don't see people coming together and saying we are one and we are Hindus. People have just such wide diversity of beliefs, and they don't think like that. So this is a whole project of bringing them together in some ways, which has always been a nationalistic project. Does that answer it?
I won't, whether our version came before India's version. Sounds like ours is almost a copy of India's version. In some ways, maybe they rose up at the same time. We'll leave that for later. So anyway, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Tom and Matt.